Hey everyone, it's Alex, and today I am here to give you a recap of the winners of the 73rd Golden Globe Awards and what I think of them, as well as give you my thoughts on the actual ceremony itself. In order to save ink on my family's printers, I am going to read off the list of winners from my computer. So bear with me as I have to scroll down from one page to the other to read the winners' names. So these are the television winners for the Golden Globes. Best Actor in a Television Series, Comedy or Musical, Gael Garcia Bernal, Mozart in the Jungle. Best Actress in a Television Series, Comedy or Musical, Rachel Bloom, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Best Actor in a Television Series Drama, Jon Hamm, Mad Men. Best Actress in a Television Series Drama, Taraji P. Henson, Empire. Best Actor in a Limited Series or Motion Picture Made for Television, Oscar Isaac, Show Me a Hero. Best Actress in a Limited Series or Motion Picture Made for Television, Lady Gaga, American Horror Story Hotel. Best Supporting Actor in a Series, Limited Series, or Motion Picture Made for Television, Christian Slater, Mr. Robot. Best Supporting Actress in a Series, Limited Series, or Motion Picture Made for Television, Maura Tierney, The Affair. Best Television Series, Comedy or Musical, Mozart in the Jungle. Best Television Series Drama, Mr. Robot. Best Limited Series or Motion Picture Made for Television, Wolf Hall. And now, the Film Awards. Best Original Score Motion Picture, Ennio Morricone, The Hateful Eight. Best Original Song Motion Picture, Writings on the Wall from Spectre, music and lyrics by Sam Smith and Jimmy Napes. Best Animated Feature Film, Inside Out. Best Foreign Language Film, Son of Saul from Hungary. Best Screenplay Motion Picture, Aaron Sorkin, Steve Jobs. Best Supporting Actor in a Motion Picture, Sylvester Stallone, Creed. Best Supporting Actress in a Motion Picture, Kate Winslet, Steve Jobs. Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Comedy or Musical, Matt Damon, The Martian. Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Comedy or Musical, Jennifer Lawrence, Joy. Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, Leonardo DiCaprio, The Revenant. Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama, Brie Larson, Room. Best Director Motion Picture, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, The Revenant. Best Motion Picture Comedy or Musical, The Martian. And Best Motion Picture Drama, The Revenant. So this was quite an interesting list of winners. The Golden Globes are notorious for going out of left field and giving winners that no one saw coming. On GoldDerby.com, my predictions ended up only being 50% correct for the film winners and only 27% correct for the TV winners. This is in part because the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which runs the Golden Globes, only has about 90 voting members, whereas the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which runs the Oscars, has about 6,200. And the Golden Globe voters are journalists who write entertainment news stories for foreign magazines. And the Oscar voters are actual Hollywood professionals, actors, writers, directors, makeup artists, film editors, cinematographers. So you have people who write about the movies versus people who actually make them, if you're trying to compare the Golden Globes and the Oscars. But that doesn't always necessarily mean the Golden Globes do a bad job of creating winners. In fact, many of these winners are actually very good. Some of them, like I said, were quite out of left field. Nobody, including myself, saw wins for Gael Garcia Bernal or Rachel Bloom. I'm so happy Jon Hamm won for Mad Men because, this was the final chance he had to win for that show. And it was the first time he got to make a speech for it. Because Jon Hamm actually won a Golden Globe for the first season of Mad Men back in 2008, but that was when a writer's strike was going on, so the Golden Globes ceremony itself was canceled. I believe all the winners were revealed in like a little 30-minute special by Mary Hart from Entertainment Tonight or something like that. So they still had winners, but just no formal ceremony. Not at all surprised by Taraji P. Henson's win for Empire, because that show is just a monster in the ratings. And I loved how when she went to the stage to get her award, she was handing out cookies to everyone in the audience. Because if you haven't watched Empire, Taraji P. Henson's character's name is Cookie, so so she's handing out a food that has the same name as her character. So that was pretty cool. Although I personally thought Viola Davis should have won, because now Taraji P. Henson, she's a wonderful actress. If you don't believe me, watch her Oscar-nominated performance in the movie The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. She's phenomenal. But I personally wish Viola Davis had won, because she did make history after all at the Emmys back in the fall, and a lot of people thought she would win this last year, but instead she lost to Ruth Wilson for The Affair. So, and Viola Davis is probably one of the most talented actresses working today, period, no matter if she's on screen or on stage. And although I wasn't necessarily rooting for Oscar Isaac to win for Show Me a Hero, it was still kind of cool to see him up there. And I bet anyone watching him win, and having seen Star Wars The Force Awakens, for which he's a cast member of, people were probably thinking, oh look, there's Poe Dameron on stage. But then you had Lady Gaga. Now, this win has been very controversial. I've gone back to NBC's video on their YouTube page of Lady Gaga winning, because NBC broadcast the Golden Globes, and man, oh man, it's a bee's nest in there in the comment section, because you have so many Lady Gaga fans going, yay, so glad for her, she totally deserved it. And then people like me going, what a disgrace, she won over actual professional actresses. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I hate Lady Gaga as a person. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of her music, but I admire her philanthropic efforts. That's very admirable. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of her music, I was absolutely stunned and blown away with her Sound of Music tribute at the Oscars last year. When I heard she was going to be performing, I was like, really? Is this just a big ratings ploy or something? What on earth is she going to do? But when she did that medley of songs from The Sound of Music, I was like, wow, that was incredible. Now, admittedly, I haven't really seen American Horror Story Hotel, just promos, but I just know that from a lot of diehard American Horror Story fans, and also critics, a lot of them feel that Lady Gaga is not very good in the show, and that casting her was a huge mistake, that it was just a publicity stunt on Ryan Murphy's part. For those of you who don't know, Ryan Murphy is the creator of American Horror Story. He also created shows like Glee and Nip Tuck, so he's got a pretty diverse resume there for a TV show creator. But Lady Gaga winning here, this is a notorious example of what the Golden Globes like to do every year, where they give one or two awards to one celebrity just because they're popular, or they're the most popular person on the list, regardless if they were the most deserving to win or not. That's what I think this is. And this isn't the first time this has happened either. 2 years ago, U2's song Ordinary Love from Mandela Long Walk to Freedom beat out Let It Go from Frozen at the Golden Globes. And part of the reason for that, I think, is because, number one, U2 is a very popular band, even though they've been around for like 35 years. And number two, the Golden Globes, I think, felt obligated to give U2 the win because the real Nelson Mandela had died like a month earlier. But of course, Let It Go went on to win the Oscar for Best Song, so Frozen fans were still satisfied. Another notorious popularity win was Madonna winning for Best Song for her critically lambasted film W.E., which she directed. She did not star in it, and no one was predicting her song to win, and when it did, a lot of people were upset, especially Elton John and his husband, because they were nominated against her. And I remember Elton John's husband actually blasted Madonna on social media afterwards. But yeah, I mean, but back to Lady Gaga, the consensus on American Horror Story Hotel and her involvement in it is that the show has kind of jumped the shark as a result. I know not everyone feels that way, but a lot of people just seem to feel that the show has taken a big dip in quality with her being in it. But, I'm not going to be too angry because Lady Gaga might actually be up for an Oscar nomination on Thursday because she wrote a song called Till It Happens to You for this documentary called The Hunting Ground, which deals with cover-ups of rape on college campuses. And Lady Gaga wrote a song for this movie because she herself was a victim of rape. And then with Christian Slater and Maura Tierney, Christian Slater I know had been heavily favored to win. I haven't seen Mr. Robot, but it's like one of the most critically acclaimed shows of this season. Maura Tierney for The Affair, I can't really comment on that, but I know she was not expected to win. Maura Tierney was like ranked by all the predictions experts in like 4th or 5th place. Most people thought that Uzo Aduba, Regina King, and Judith Light all had a better chance of winning than her. And Mozart in the Jungle winning Best Comedy Series. This kind of shows another trend of the Golden Globes where with TV shows they always like to go for the brand new fresh shows that are starting to appear on people's radar, which is the same exact case for the drama winner Mr. Robot. And then Wolf Hall, that was not expected to win, but looking back on it, it's not really surprising that it did, because Wolf Hall is a British miniseries, and all of the Golden Globes voters are foreign. None of them are American. But Wolf Hall is a very good miniseries. It's everything you want in it. It's got great acting, great writing, great directing, and it deals with a very interesting subject matter. It deals with the court of King Henry VIII, but from his right-hand man's perspectives instead of his. And then with the film wins, I'm so glad for Ennio Morricone winning for The Hateful Eight. If you watch the show, Ennio Morricone wasn't there to accept it in person because he lives in Italy and he's like 87 years old. So Quentin Tarantino was accepting it for him. And Quentin Tarantino went very fanboy in his speech. He was like, Ennio Morricone is the greatest composer ever. And I don't just mean a film composer. I mean up there with Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, etc., etc. You're like, whoa. But that score was wonderful, and it absolutely deserved the win, in my opinion, for Best Original Song. And this is the second popularity win of the night, with Sam Smith winning for Writings on the Wall, which is a song that has divided a lot of people. You know, some have even said it's the worst James Bond theme song ever. I can't really say if it is or not because I haven't listened to all the James Bond theme songs. It's certainly vastly inferior to Adele's song Skyfall, but it's not necessarily a bad song. I think the orchestral elements were a little overdone. It sounded like they were going for a full symphony orchestra when they could have just had a small chamber ensemble. But Sam Smith's vocals I thought were amazing. I personally would have liked to see One Kind of Love from Love and Mercy win, because Brian Wilson, who's like 73 now, proves he still got it, and that for great music talent, age is nothing but a number. And See You Again from Furious 7. You all know my thoughts on that, so I'm not going to say anything more about it. Very glad for Inside Out's win for Best Animated Feature. I think that's a lock to win the Oscar. If it doesn't get nominated for the Oscar, oh boy, it'll be the Lego Movie all over again. Because the Lego Movie, everyone thought that would win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. It wasn't even nominated, and that caused a lot of justified outrage. Best Foreign Language Film, Son of Saul, no surprise there. Everyone knew that was going to win because it's been winning like every Film Critics Circle award there is, and it's still riding its wave of praise from the Cannes Film Festival. Best Screenplay. This is always a tricky category because they combine both original and adapted screenplays into one category, so you often never know what's going to win. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Spotlight won, although Steve Jobs was my close second place. And Aaron Sorkin is a phenomenal writer, so I can't be too mad about that. For Best Supporting Actor in a Motion Picture, I know a lot of people are happy for Sylvester Stallone winning for Creed. He got like a huge standing ovation. I didn't see Creed, but it'll be interesting to see what'll happen with other award shows, because Sylvester Stallone was nominated also for a Critics' Choice Award, but not for a Screen Actors Guild or a BAFTA. And the Screen Actors Guild is an especially important award because the Screen Actors Guild and the Oscars share the most voters. So if Sylvester Stallone couldn't get nominated at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, his Oscar chances are in big trouble. Now he probably will be nominated for the Oscar, but for actually winning, that's still a big mystery. Now, if he does win, I hope he wins just for the quality of this performance. I don't want just pure Rocky Balboa nostalgia to be the factor in him winning, because if that were the case, then that would be unfair to all the other nominees. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Mark Rylance win for Bridge of Spies because, his performance was very different from what you usually see, but done in a way that could still gain your attention. Instead of being like loud and dramatic, he was very soft and subtle and mild-mannered, and his character, though, does a terrible thing in the movie, but Rylance portrays him in a way that you wouldn't expect to see someone in his situation be portrayed, but yet you never lose your attention on him when he's on screen. So much so that he kind of steals the movie away from Tom Hanks in scenes that they're in together. Best Supporting Actress. Now, no one was predicting Kate Winslet to win. However, I'm really glad she did. She was my personal choice to win. So, will she win the Oscar? I don't know, because Rooney Mara is predicted to win the Oscar for Carol, but she was nominated as a lead actress at the Golden Globes. She could be nominated as a lead at the Oscars, but many people are thinking she'll get nominated as a supporting actress, while Cate Blanchett will get nominated as a lead. They often like to, even if there are two clear leads in a movie, they often like to put one in the lead and one in the supporting, so that way they don't split voters if they're in the same category, because when that's happened in the past, usually neither actor or actress wins. For Best Actor in a Comedy, Matt Damon was the clear winner here, and I'm so glad he did win because he was just absolutely phenomenal in The Martian. Like I said before, he's alone on screen 95% of the time, but he never fails to make you lose interest in him or his quest to get back from Mars to Earth. Best Actress in a Comedy. Many were predicting Amy Schumer would win for Trainwreck, and Amy Schumer was excellent in that movie. But I'm actually glad Jennifer Lawrence won for Joy. She was my preferred choice, because I've often felt David O. Russell's films were overrated, and that Jennifer Lawrence, while good in those movies, wasn't the absolute best she could have been, because David O. Russell's directing style was too over the top, in my opinion. Now, he does do a lot of over-the-top directing in Joy, but Jennifer Lawrence's character in Joy, in my opinion, is the most well-rounded character she's ever played in a David O. Russell movie. One who is more multifaceted than any of her other David O. Russell characters. So, and Joy, that movie hasn't been as widely praised as Silver Linings Playbook or American Hustle. I personally think it's a little bit better than both of those movies. But, the thing that made the movie what it was, that saved it from a lot of its flaws, was Jennifer Lawrence. She's not going to win the Oscar, and nor do I think she should. I do think there are other better performances. But if it were not, but just from this list, because the Golden Globes always split into drama and comedy, I think she was deserving. And then Leonardo DiCaprio winning for Best Actor in a Drama. I was just able to see The Revenant right before Golden Globes weekend, because it didn't come to my theaters until January 8th. And right up until then, my pick to win had actually been Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs. But then once I saw The Revenant, I was blown away, because Leonardo DiCaprio has the hard task of making you care about his character and stay interested in his character, even though he does not speak a single word for about 90% of the movie. When he does speak, it's often in a very weak, raspy voice, because his character has had to go through a ton of hell just to survive out in the wild. I don't want to give anything else away just because it'll spoil the movie, but if you haven't seen The Revenant yet and you're a big Leonardo DiCaprio fan, then you owe it to yourself to see this movie. And I'm so glad Brie Larson won for Room. She was amazing in that movie, totally deserved it. And then Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu winning Best Director for The Revenant. It was a great movie, but I honestly think Ridley Scott, Tom McCarthy, and George Miller made better movies. So yeah, maybe this was a way for the Golden Globes to make it up to Iñárritu for not giving him the Golden Globe for Birdman. last year, because last year Richard Linklater won for Boyhood, and many thought he'd go on to win the Oscar too, but the Oscars decided Birdman was better, and and they gave Iñárritu the Oscar for Best Director for that. So yeah, and then and same thing with the Revenant winning. I'm sure they probably really liked the movie, but I can't help but feel they kind of felt like let's make it up to you for Boyhood winning over Birdman last year. But I'm so glad The Martian won for Best Picture, Comedy, or Musical. I know a lot of people were debating if The Martian is actually a comedy at all, but to some degree it is. It certainly has its big share of dramatic moments, but Matt Damon says a lot of witty one-liners in it that I think give it enough to pass for a comedy. You know, it's tricky for that category because most films that could be described as a pure comedy are often not given glowing reviews by critics. And the Golden Globes have gotten in trouble before for nominating critically lambasted films, like they did with Burlesque and The Tourist 5 years ago. So those are my thoughts on the winners. Now on to the show itself. This is an interesting show because you have, you know, the host giving a monologue and then coming back on stage to make a few jokes, but then it's pretty much just a steady stream of presenters and winners along with the Cecil B. DeMille Award. There's no musical performances or in memoriam montage like there is at the Oscars, so therefore there isn't really as much to talk about. But first, let's talk about Ricky Gervais. This was the first time since 2012 that Ricky Gervais had hosted the Golden Globes. He hosted 3 years in a row, then Amy Poehler and Tina Fey did 3 years in a row, and now he's back. And Ricky Gervais has been a very controversial Golden Globes host because he's often kind of called out the Golden Globes for the way they like to nominate people just for their popularity, or how they're willing to nominate a movie just so a studio will stop leaving them alone. Even, you know, the Golden Globes have sometimes been accused of bribery in the past, and Ricky Gervais has made a lot of jokes about that. And of course, he was accused of being just plain mean and not funny at all when he poked fun at celebrities like Robert Downey Jr. for saying things like, our next presenter's best known residences include the Los Angeles County Jail and the Betty Ford Center. You know, he wasn't necessarily going for all the celebrities this time, but he certainly made a few jokes about, you know, just people in society. He made a Caitlyn Jenner joke. He made a Bill Cosby joke, just like Amy Poehler and Tina Fey did last year, and he even went so far as to make a Roman Polanski joke when talking about the movie Spotlight, and how Roman Polanski would find it to be the perfect date movie. If you don't know what he means, Roman Polanski, the famous director back in the late 1970s, was convicted of having sex with a 13-year-old girl, and because Roman Polanski is French and not American, he fled the United States to avoid harsher jail time than the jail time he had already served. And if he enters the United States again, he'll be immediately arrested. So as a result, he's stayed behind in France ever since. But needless to say, if a director like Polanski did the same thing today than what he did back then, his career would be immediately over, forever. But that's a subject for an entirely different video. So let's move on to happier things. Overall, I thought Ricky Gervais did a good job as the host. He kept things moving along. He surprised both the audience in the room and the audience watching at home, which I think is what a host should always do. He kind of knew when to toe the line, but also not to go too far across the line of, you know, just common decency in terms of telling jokes. You know, Ricky Gervais is that kind of person. He's never going to hold himself back. He's never going to necessarily make PG jokes. I mean, his jokes aren't necessarily what I'd call dirty, but they're definitely not friendly for kids, that's for sure. But, you know, I thought Ricky Gervais did a fine job, and I wouldn't mind seeing him host the Golden Globes again, or even the Oscars if he should ever do that. The presenters were okay for the most part, although a lot of them had running gags that really kind of got annoying. They just went on and on. You're like, okay, just present the award already. First there was Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, where Jonah Hill was pretending to be the bear that attacks Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant. And then later on in the show, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg came out wearing these weird glasses that I guess, limited their ability to read the teleprompter, which got really annoying really quick. and then Jamie Foxx and Lily James were presenting Best Score, and Jamie Foxx was jokingly like, and the Golden Globe goes to Straight Outta Compton, which wasn't even nominated. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And then once I was reading recaps of the show, they were like, Jamie Foxx was mocking Steve Harvey's Miss Universe gaffe, and I'm like, oh, okay, because I know all about Steve Harvey's Miss Universe gaffe, where he announced the wrong winner, but I've never actually seen the video because I just feel it would be too cringeworthy to watch. And then for the actual winners, I thought most of them gave pretty good speeches, even though I wasn't too happy about Lady Gaga winning over more accomplished actresses in her category like Kirsten Dunst and Queen Latifah. I thought her speech was actually pretty sweet for the most part, except for one thing. She actually compared herself to Cher in Moonstruck. I'm like, really? You're comparing yourself to Cher's Oscar-winning performance in Moonstruck? You know, Lady Gaga then went on a whole thing about how she wanted to be an actress first and a singer second, but then music ended up becoming her first career, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way because, you know, Cher for a long time and today is still known as a music figure. But, you know, Cher, of course, did dip her toes into the water of acting. But the big difference between Cher and Lady Gaga is that Lady Gaga, in any acting role she's done, she's basically been playing just a fictionalized version of herself. She's been cast simply for who she is, for her pop persona. And Cher, on the other hand, actually did roles that made her that required her to step out of her Cher musician persona. If you watch the movie Moonstruck, Cher does not act at all like her musical persona in that movie. She doesn't even sing. She just plays an Italian-American housewife whose husband died in a freak accident several years ago, and she's in love with another man, and she's found love with another man, but then when he has to go away, ends up falling in love with his brother. And she's actually really good in that movie, and so is all the other cast in that movie. That movie not only won an Oscar for Cher as Best Actress, but Olympia Dukakis for Supporting Actress, and also Best Original Screenplay. And it's actually the rare romantic comedy that both men and women can enjoy without feeling embarrassed. And romantic comedies almost always are never Oscar contenders. So yeah, I got annoyed with her because of that, but I know that's a silly gripe, but yeah, that's just how I felt in that moment. Now, all the other winners, whether I wanted them to win or not, gave a lot of really good speeches. I guess if I had to pick a top 5, it would be like this. I'd give an honorable mention to Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. I just considered him putting in my list, but ultimately I had to push him out because I decided my number 5 pick was the better choice in terms of a speech. But for my top 5 speeches of the night, this is how they were. Number 5, Jon Hamm. It was so nice to see him win, and you could tell he had kind of figured he would never get a chance to make a speech on the Golden Globe stage, so he was kind of stuck for what to say, but when he did say something, you know, he sounded very sincere, and he was also kind of very self-deprecating, because when you watch Jon Hamm in, like, talk show interviews and stuff, he has a very dry, self-deprecating sense of humor. Number 4 is Taraji P. Henson. You know, she just owned the stage when she was up there, you know. She was like, I've been waiting for this for 20 years when the music started to play her off, because, you know, she was trying to thank almost everybody in her life, but she was very sweet and passionate in the way she did it. Number 3 was Leonardo DiCaprio. You know, this is kind of the speech that everyone wants to see an actor give when they're up on the podium, especially one who many people have wanted to win for a long time. And I really loved how Leonardo DiCaprio paid tribute to his Native American co-stars in The Revenant, and, you know, called for Native American lands that are still around to continue to be protected, because in both the United States and Canada, you know, the governments there have both had a shameful history of taking land away from Native Americans who had lived on it for thousands of years. My number 2 was Rachel Bloom. You know, I had not been predicting her to win it all, but, you know, she was very but she was very genuine and grateful in her speech, especially when she was talking about how several networks had rejected the show, The Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, before it ended up on the CW. And I love how she was playing against the music, because again, the music played because they felt she was going on too long, but I love how she just shouted against it to continue to get those last few people in there before it completely drowned her out. But my number one speech of the night was Matt Damon. You know, he was very proud, very humble, and very honest about his career and how he's made a lot of movies people have seen, but also a lot of movies people haven't seen, and how he was just so grateful that everyone, from critics to regular movie-going audiences, have embraced The Martian all over the world, and just how Ridley Scott, the director, and all the people behind it, and all the people from in front of him behind the camera helped to bring it together. And so it's very nice to see an actor or anyone give that kind of acknowledgement, and so that's why Matt Damon's speech is my favorite of the night. And then with Denzel Washington getting the Cecil B. DeMille Award, I thought the clip montage of his career was excellent, and I loved how he brought his whole family up on stage, his wife and his children. I have never seen that done before in the Golden Globes, ever. For someone with the Cecil B. DeMille Award, they're usually up on stage by himself. And unfortunately, Denzel Washington forgot his reading glasses because, you know, he had a prepared speech, so he was kind of having to go, I want to thank, and then his wife was helping him give names. So, you know, I mean, it's kind of awkward to watch, you know, for someone to try and read a speech without glasses that they needed. But, you know, he did the best he could, and it was kind of the charming awkward, you know. You still loved the speech, you know, and Denzel Washington, you know, he's had a long and storied enough career where he deserves an honor like this, and despite having to make everything up on the spot, he was very charming, very gracious, and very humble, which is always nice to see when a celebrity is getting some kind of Lifetime Achievement Award. So overall, I thought the Golden Globes was a good show. You know, I don't know if it was the absolute best Golden Globes ceremony I've ever watched, you know, because I've never really thought about what was the best one. Probably one of the three hosted by Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, but Ricky Gervais kept the show moving along at a nice pace. The winners were announced at a nice pace, and the clips were done at a nice pace. And the show ended like pretty much right on time. Didn't really run over too long, which is often a big complaint with award shows. So yeah, it was just a fun night. So if you watched the Golden Globes, I hope you had a fun time too. Write down in the comments section what you thought of the show and the winners, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.